Hello everyone, welcome back. Thankfully I wasn't detained too long, and so hopefully we'll be able to finish off this feature today. So where I had left things maybe about an hour ago was that we were implementing immutability and we had gotten an error for basically any tests that do assignments, because immutability is now the default. So what was happening as I guess the default was originally mutable variables, but now that syntax has been updated to define immutability, and you need some extra characters to define mutability. So we're now getting these errors for cannot assign to immutable variables. But then when we try to make the variables mutable, we're now getting this error, unexpected And so there's a couple of peculiarities here. First of all, the unexpected section is looking very strange. So it's saying unexpected expected something. So instead of just getting basically a token, we're actually getting a string as the unexpected thing. So I'm actually going to simplify our tests to just do the variables self-assign test. And how do I, maybe I should be a bit more explicit or less explicit with the test name. So unexpected that, and so we want to simplify that so that it just says the character that got encountered. So first of all, it's on line 7, so we'll go 7 down, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so first line, third character. So 1, 2, 3. I feel like the character position might be a little off, but regardless, we're getting these quotation marks, which is unexpected. And so we want to address that as well, and the fact that we're not matching the way we want to match. So first of all, we'll look for calls to the lexer error. That's the only call to that. So let's just do a print line here, just to maybe aid with the debugging. We're not getting the print line as part of our output. That's a bit surprising. Let's try print line that, just to work our way through and get some extra debugging output. So that's working as expected. So for some reason we're not getting the output of bang. What other errors could it be? Invalid character, unescaped dollar. Don't think it's any of those. So what is causing that? What I might do, because if it was, because I have a feeling this is a lexer error and not a interpretation error, like an evaluation error. And because of that, printing the AST, I feel, won't be as useful, but let's see, we'll try something like this. We'll just put a bang here to verify that this is the section that we're getting to. No, so it's not. So maybe we should go down here, run. Oh yeah, so we were getting the 2 there. Okay, so I was just looking in the wrong place. So it was an issue with the parse, render parse failure. And so it's probably this section, the unrecognized token. We'll try that. Yeah, and so its unrecognized token is actually the error that we're encountering. Where is that coming from? It looks like that's coming from LALRPOP. So let's go ahead and maybe open up LALRPOP. Yeah, so we've got parse error unrecognized token. Like, it's looking very strange for a couple of reasons. First of all, that's not really a token. So I'm not sure why it was passed to LALRPOP as such. So I guess there's something happening with our next token function. So maybe we can put here something like that, so we can see all the tokens that are being potentially returned. Can I use that to print it in debug mode or with debug formatting? An interpolated string literal. Okay, so that's what's going on there. So in general, oh, that's very strange. That, so at the moment it looks like dollars in general are just used to start an interpolated string literal. But the character after it doesn't specify double quotes. So that is very funny, the way it's doing that. I mean, it shouldn't do that. And what's it doing? It's basically just reading until the end of the file. So there's a couple of things going wrong here. It's reading to the end of the file and then returning it as a valid token, essentially. But while we're reading an interpolated string literal, if we encounter the end of the file without encountering the delimiter, then that shouldn't be used. Let me see what areas the dollar is being matched in. So next string literal. And that's just matching characters within the string or expansions within the string. And so we say that if we match the start of a string or a dollar symbol, then we're starting interpolation. If the character is a dollar symbol, then we're doing interpolation. And then we're just, if it's a dollar symbol, we're immediately starting an interpolation, but that's not necessarily what we want to do. So first off, so at the moment we'll just fix the issue that's here. Oh, picture. I'll just leave start location the way it is. Yeah. And that is what we should expect if we don't properly support the current token. But we'll come back to that. And what we want to do is, this is a little tricky now because the dollar symbol will be the start of a few different symbols. And so how best to distinguish between all of them? I mean, we can just create a new block here and handle all the specific logic for dollars there. Yeah, maybe we just do that for now. And see if we can simplify it after we've actually implemented it. So we, even though it's a bit redundant, we just assign a constant here to make the parameter clearer. Ideally, we'd make an enum for that, but for the sake of a single line, that's clear enough, I think. And so interpolate here is going to be true. Whoops. Next symbol token, how does that work? That's char1. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll skip the current character and we'll peek at the next char. And make a decision based on that. If next character is that, then we'll say we're doing a string interpolation. Otherwise, we're going to try and match the next symbol token. And we'll pass the current character, which is C. Although we know at this point that it's dollar symbol. And so, yeah, if we don't match a symbol or the dollar symbol, then at this point we're going to say that the whole thing was unexpected. I think that's okay. And do we have a branch for each of these? This section's a little complicated. In terms of what it returns. Yeah, I'm not a lover of this block because there's a lot going on. Well, unexpected dollar there isn't really true. Because when we say unexpected, we're kind of saying that it's not the prefix for any valid token. But in this case, we're saying that the character after the dollar symbol wasn't expected. So we'll do it like that. Yeah, and that's kind of valid. I mean, if we had a dollar symbol and then a character after it that wasn't the colon, then that's the error message that we would expect to get. But in this case, we do want there to be a match for the character there. So next symbol token. I think this could be to do with the fact that at the moment we'll only attempt to match a 3-character symbol if the prefix also matches a 2-character symbol. So here we handle the matching of double symbol tokens that have a prefix matching a single symbol token. Then here we have handle the matching of a triple symbol token that has a prefix matching a single symbol token and a double symbol token. But we also need to handle a case where we can match a triple symbol token that doesn't match a double single token. So how do we do that? Oh, here we do. Here we have it. So to do, we don't handle the matching of triple symbol tokens that do not. This is because if we attempt, this is a problematic. There's a reason here. This is because if we attempt to match a triple symbol token after failing to match a double symbol token, it will require us to consume an extra character from the stream. And that requires more than one look ahead character. Yes. So that is a bit of a blocker. So how do we resolve that? So I guess a hacky way would be to return to allow matching of a double symbol token, which is made up of $:, and to return some token that is essentially specifying an invalid value. But that is quite hacky, or would require, to do it in a nice way, would require rejigging a lot of code here. I guess we'll just attempt it and add this as a note that it's not necessarily working as, in an ideal way. So in this case, we do next character. if we don't match an item here, then we return some t. Yeah. Oh, that's a problem as well, because we're not matching a single symbol token either. So we need to handle that. So we need to undo all of that. Oh. So here we have a check for matching of a double symbol token that doesn't have a prefix, but do a prefix matching a double symbol token. Okay. And here we handle the matching of a triple symbol token that don't have a prefix matching single or double symbol tokens. Okay, so we should be going into here actually. And ideally all of this would be handled with a prefix tree. Like that would make things a lot easier in a lot of ways, but it's also, I feel, a good chunk of work for something that isn't totally necessary. I don't know. We'll see. So let's see. Would it be a lot of work to do a prefix tree? Regardless, this should be doing what we want it to do. Dollar equals. Okay, am I skipping? Okay, that's because of. Okay, so actually, maybe most of the matching logic was working. It's just that I put these parts into the wrong section. I think this should be working now. Oh. We're skipping a character, that's the problem. And let me just double check that the location is correct. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the unexpected line number and column number is correct. So when we call next symbol token down here, we're only peeking at the current character, which is what we pass in. But when we go down here and do next symbol token, then we already have dollar symbol is already consumed because we've gone next char, and peak char is on the subsequent character. So actually maybe what we want to do is use next multi-symbol token here. Because we're immediately going into this one. We need a version where we're not doing next char. Because char 2 will be what we pass in next. So let me just duplicate this and replace that with 2. And we'll go on next symbol token 2. Or next multi-symbol token 2. And yeah, the test passed. It's just we have all this debugging output, but it's doing what we want it to do. So that's actually working as expected. We just want to clean it up a little. How many places is multi-symbol token being used in? Just that one place. So we can actually move this to here and then change that to multi-symbol token, which kind of makes sense as well. And do we still have the debugging symbols? We do, so we'll get rid of those. Nice. So now we need to go through all of our functions, or all of our tests, and replace all of the usages of immutable bindings. Well, we don't need to replace all of them actually, just the ones that are causing failures where we're doing assignments. And in fact, we can just go through our tests because that'll tell us the ones that are failing. So we have, most of them are happening in variables actually. Some of the opposite tests aren't failing, which is surprising. So I'll leave those open. Oh, and those are okay because they're not assigning to the property, they're assigning to a reference within the property or within the variable. That's actually okay. So and list destruct _2. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, even in a destructure you can't assign to an immutable variable. That's nice that got caught. And variables and variable scoping. And then we have a line that's too long here. In Rust, I have it set to 79 characters. Do I want to define a result type so that I simplify that? Like I can remove a bunch of lines if I define a result type here. Let's try that. No, that doesn't work. Because I guess I'm using result in a bunch of other places. Using a different... Yeah. That's okay. So that's that, and that's nice. So I'll go into, do all of these have the correct copyright notices? A little tedious and error prone, and I'm not sure how necessary it is, but I suppose it's useful to be explicit, especially for people who want to contribute. So let's go through these. We now need some new documentation for variables. And maybe I'll put the documentation on assigning to either using the spread or collect. No, spread. No, that should be fine. I do like the fact that spread applies to functions as well. I mean, Go has that, but still quite nice. List destructuring. Wait, where did list destructuring go? So here. Oh, yeah, and those will need to... In fact, I'll need to go through all the examples, I think. That's quite nice that there is actually reference equality. No, it's actually, even so far, not a bad language if I do say so myself. I'm pretty happy with the consistency and the kind of reflective nature of some of the operations that, for example, spread has a fairly logical complement. The usage of dollar symbols to make things mutable is fairly consistent. There are some nice ideas here, I think. Like nothing groundbreaking, but just the implementation I'm pretty pleased with. Oh, that's an interesting one. Do I have an example of that? I guess it's in lists, list destructuring. Oh, I don't have a test file for lists. In variables, I guess. List destructuring. Oh, I guess you can't declare variables in a destructuring. You can. Let's see. List immutable declaration destructuring. Does that work the way we expected? Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think that's all the documentation I need for the moment, but I will add in another. I have a test file for objects, and this file is like 500 lines long. I wonder, should I put a chunk of these into, well, destructuring I guess does refer to variables, but should these go into the list test file and then objects go into object test files, because these aren't really big files. So, and this is a very big file, so it could make sense for splitting things up. But for the moment anyway, I'll just do a complementary test for the list immutable declaration destructuring. So let's try that. So B is not defined in this case. Now, why is that? Oh, because I'm assigning it to underscore. Oh, some white space errors. What file is that in? Bind. And that is in evalmod. I wonder why those are happening. Is it happening when I am copying code from GitHub, perhaps? I'm not sure. And it might be worth adding some information to the README about this. So this project defines the Ash programming language, which aims to be used as an alternative to Bash and all that good stuff. So I think it might be worth putting in a section on because this is now to do with kind of correctness versus verbosity, shall we say. As such, we aim to minimize over our heads like static typing. And other we how do you spell coercive? So we're talking about mostly PHP here, and I think JavaScript, where operations will coerce the type into another. CIVE. What other things does the language do to encourage correctness? I think that is enough documentation for now. I can add to it later. And next, I think we'll, in addition to objects tests, we'll go lists tests, and we'll take lots of tests from our variables file. file is a lot more lean now. We've removed a couple hundred lines from it. And I think we're good to push those for the moment. And we've been making pretty decent time today. I think we can maybe take a look at accidentally deleted a chunk of that file, but I think we can go ahead and look at immutability for basic types, which could be a nice thing and something I want to do a proof of concept for as well once I've that implemented, is being able to essentially freeze and unfreeze a deeply nested structure, but not in the way that JavaScript does it, but by actually creating a new object or list that is built up of immutable items. And in that way, you're not actually affecting the mutability of the original, which is nice. So let's give that a go. So again, maybe we'll take a look at prior art in this domain. And so, yeah, I think the core of this was just that when you create a new, I believe it was object or list, then it has mutability. And then when an assignment is happening, so it wouldn't be this assignment, it would be something else. Actually, I'll have to take a look at the new project because I'm not sure. I think there's some extra logic around binding that makes it different to the original project. So we have bind next. Oh yeah, and so here are the places where we will actually bind, for example, an index. And so we would say if the item is out of bounds, and then here are also the places where if the list or object itself, the value is immutable, then we will return an error. So if we go into value, we can probably see that lists and objects have mutability. And I might stick with the tuple approach and just add the mutability as an extra field in the tuple rather than creating a new record struct. So where do we want to go first? I suppose we'll update the types in value. Yeah, I think it's better to be explicit about that, because I can put, where is it, M here, but I don't think that's very clear about what's going on. So I will split that onto multiple lines just to give it a bit more clarity. Could two values be referencing the same, have the same reference? I think they shouldn't. I think those references should be owned by the value. Yeah, we'll go with this approach for the moment anyway. And then let's see, 1594 new list. Maybe I'll go into bind first and define the kind of error conditions. So we'll have index, range index, assignment, and again same for props. Assigning to objects using destructuring will be the same, and lists will be the same. Yeah, so there's a couple of places we'll be adding these kind of checks. So we would say return new location error, object not mutable. Now, the only thing is we're going to have a lot of exit points with essentially the same error message. So I think for debugging purposes, we want to keep track of something distinct for each exit point so that we can trace back to where the error came from. Now, one tricky thing here is that if you have like a deeply nested list or object, then it could make debugging using the error messages a little trickier. But I think that's just something that you have to work around yourself by not doing the assignment too deeply or in too complex of a way. Yeah, I think that's the only way, really. So let's try that, and we'll go list not mutable. And how many errors do I have at the moment, actually? Some errors. Oh, 49 errors. And so we'll see, once we've updated these, then do we reduce the number of errors that we have. Okay, let's try that. No, we've more errors now. Okay, let's go into mod. Let's say we have a new list here. And this is when we're evaluating a call. And what is this new list being used for? Oh, for when we're collecting items. So So same thing here. Eval list items, what's that being used for? Is it just for when performing function calls? So it's in function calls, but it's also when just defining lists. So we need to get the mutability from the parent. Whoops. So for item and items, we have a list of AST items. We're going to evaluate each, and then what's going on in here? We evaluate one. If it's a spreadable item, then we push all the items onto the resulting vals, and we'll return the list of those. But what are we doing here with the value, the evaluated value? Oh, that's if the item is spread. So if the item is not spread, then we push it just as is. But then if it's a spread item, I don't like adding a comment to explain what the code is doing, but I mean, when I was looking at this first, I didn't really understand it, and I think that it's still maybe that is a bit more explicit. I don't like it. It increases the indent level, but it's probably clearer. And here we don't really care if the item that we're going through is immutable or not, because we're just taking the values out of it. We're not actually modifying the original list. And so we don't need to have mutability there, I don't think. But we're going to need to have mutability here. for getting a range index from a list. There won't. Will that be? Will that be mutable or immutable by default? That's a tricky one. So if I have, let's see, we have lists. Where are the tests for range indexes? Indexing, I guess. So for string ranges, they're going to be immutable anyway. And so I think, yeah, making the same for lists makes sense. And if you really want to, then so that's actually going to be in the errors. Oh, I never really added any error tests for regular immutability, so I'll have to do that before I commit these changes. Oh, interesting. So I think we're just going to ignore the mutability when doing structural comparisons, because I think you really only care about whether the elements of the structure are equal, but that is something to be documented. And in general, if you want to verify the mutability of it, you're really looking for reference equality, which is handled separately anyway. So let's just be explicit. interesting. What is the result going to be when we have two lists of potentially different mutabilities? Wow. I want to skip that for the moment. I'll come back to that. That's interesting though. Hadn't even thought of that as a possible sticking point. So I'm going to make these list items constant. So when you catch as a bool or catch as an error, those... Oh, am I at the limit? I'm at line 80. That's going to get caught by the line length checker. So what's this? When we're accessing a prop, doesn't really matter what the mutability is. Same for that and that. And I'm creating a new object there. It's just going to take the mutability of the raw expression. And we'll add in some functionality for that. It's going to be a big PR, and really I should probably be splitting it up so that it's handling lists and lists separately and objects separately. But I've done this much now. I mean, actually it's not a huge amount of code so far, and it probably won't be, so it'd be nicer to do it in separate commits, but I don't think it'll actually be a big issue. Maybe I just make it a Boolean field actually in all the places that... Why is that separate? Let's try that. So this again is going to be next multi-symbol token, where we match a double symbol token that doesn't have a prefix matching a single symbol token. So that should have what we want. Then in bind we need to change the mutability stuff. I'm not sure if that's correct or if I'll need to change it. Oh, I need to update loads of locations now, I guess. That's okay. Doesn't seem like there's too many. So what's going on here? It's when we're doing a spread of an object into another object, the object that we're reading from, it doesn't really matter the mutability, because we're just taking the mutability of the new object into account. Now for ranges though, that will also depend on so that's a range index, but just having a range will be a bit different. I think we'll make those immutable, and you can change, like you can turn it into, again, we'll have things be immutable by default, and then you can make it mutable if you want. So any of these error tests will have hopefully a complement in the regular tests that will they'll have complement in the regular tests. I lost my train of thought. That will not throw an error, but will convert it to a mutable form. So I believe that how do ranges look again? Yeah, so this is for getting a regular index, and yeah, so for retrievals we don't really mind. Yeah, I think for all of these, we're going to make the... Oh, these are just for reading. So again, yeah, we don't need to worry about those. Maybe this will be a big commit, but at the same time all the list items and object items are being updated basically in tandem, so that kind of simplifies things a bit as well. Where are we now? Validate args. So I think we don't care whether the list is mutable there as well. And that might be everything in mod. It looks like we're onto value now. Or maybe not. No. We're still in mod. Okay, going into bind now. We have some new files. So in this case, if we bind a list, so that means we're going list equals something. I'm a little lost here about what exactly is happening. Yeah, so we have a list on the left-hand side. And so we have items on the right-hand side that we're assigning to each item in the source. And this is the case where we have a spread. Oh, so this is the case where we have a collect, rather. And the item that gets collected, I think we're gonna say that it's immutable. And basically the same thing here, I think. So we have a collect with all the keys, and the new object that's going to be created is going to be immutable. And we could probably add a syntax for collections like this, where we say that we want the collection to be mutable. But for now, we're just going to say they're immutable by default. But it might be something to add to the Scratch file for the future. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So let's go back to bind. we need to update all of those instances. Oh, yeah. Oh, I checked the mutability of the wrong thing. I hope, well, I better check the other instances of that as well. Oh no, it was right the first time. Hi, welcome to the chat. Oh, that was a bit loud, I think. So yeah, we do actually want to check the mutability of the right hand side. No, we don't really care about either. In fact, when we're doing a list destructuring, we don't care about either sides. Oh, thanks for the question. Actually, I've prepared a command for describing the project. So it's, yeah, like you see there, an alternative to bash programming, but with hopefully lots of nice little ergonomics in the mix too. So I don't think we need that anymore. Let's see where that gets us. Nice, we're down to 17 errors at least. That's a good chunk of them done now. Oh, and we're now going into type functions. It's been a while since we've looked at that file. And we'll be jumping into functions next. And actually that could be nice, is to include the mutability of the item in its description. I'm not, I'm not sure what that sound was. Was that I guess it was something to do with Twitch. But let's see, we'll go ahead and format this and say that we include the mutability here. I feel like there has to be a much easier way of writing this with some kind of idiomatic rust. But I don't feel like putting a big if-else statement there. I guess it would be possible to do something like that, but it doesn't really look nice to me, in my humble opinion anyway. I guess I'll have to do a double bracket there or something to escape the brace. Let's try that, see where it gets us. And I also want to add some print tests for that new formatting. I should probably add in a pretty print function instead of having print do pretty printing by default, but that is a job for another day, I think. Oh, I think we're on the last stretch. Eval mod. We can remove those Arc Mutexes. I'm not sure why it's just now saying that I can remove them. I don't feel like I modified anything in main in this commit. No. Nothing to suggest Arc Mutex could be removed. Oh, because I commented that stuff out. I'll need to change that. Eval mod again. So 1595. No, 97. So where are we now? So we're saying is immutable false. Or is mutable true, rather. Oh. Maybe I do create a mutability enum just for calls to new object and new list. Oh, I've done that in a bunch of places. Whoops. Yeah, I think I'm going to add a mutability import so that I can make those calls a bit clearer. Whew. We are finally through the bulk of stuff. Oh, I just realized how bright the sun is there. We've got some failing tests, but before I take a look at that, I'm going to look at the... I thought it was in main. Where was the file that it was saying I could remove Arc Mutex? Oh, from a val mod. That's so strange that there's only one spot where Arc Mutex is actually used. I wonder why I can't use new list. Oh, because it has to be the value outside of the valref. That's okay. Whoops, keep bunking that. We'll do it as mutable for now. I mean, really, it should take the... It should take the mutability of the sources into account. What we'll say for now is if both the source objects are mutable, then the result will be mutable, but otherwise they won't be. And so we'll add some tests for that as well. And I think that's just for lists. So we'll say A plus B will be mutable. B plus C will not be mutable. And C plus B will be not mutable. And then finally C plus D will be not mutable. So it's time to fix up some variable tests, I guess. Although it's been a while of coding now, I think I might take a quick break and finish this off in maybe 10 minutes. So I'll just get a little bit of refreshment and be right back. Cool. Thanks very much, and I'll see you again quite soon. And we're back. So let's take a look at these variables tests that are currently failing. So we've got, well, actually, let's start at the bottom. Range, index, reference. So this one. And what's the error that we're getting here? This list is not mutable. And so in theory, we should be able to just do this. Oops. Let's try that. Range, index, reference. We're still getting the same error. So it's on line 4. Oh, now it's the object is not mutable. And so that should sort that one out. And yeah, it's just the printing then is the, but the formatting seems to be as we'd expected, so that's pretty nice. And so range, index, assign identity is also failing, so I'm guessing that's to do with this. And we'll do the same for these two. And again, it's just the formatting at the end. Cool. And we'll see if it makes any suggestions for simplifications and things like that. But so far, that is looking like what we want. So we'll focus on objects and lists first. So these are operations. Oh, these error tests don't seem to be running. That is surprising, and in fact, a lot of tests don't seem to be running. So it's running 75 tests. I thought there were like 100 tests. That is a little strange. I guess what I'll do is I'll clean up these suggestions first, and then I'll go look at the other tests. Oh, 281 filtered out. Had I been running it? Oh, I accidentally was running it without. Oh, I have to wait for the rebuild. But I had been accidentally running the tests with a filter. Okay, I have a lot more tests to fix, and I wonder, was that happening before as well? So I might need to stash my current changes. So yeah, I'll quit out of that and do git stash and see where that leaves us. Yeah, I need to fix those. So let's see. So that should be those. Prop assign 4 and 5. Multi-lines, Boolean. Loops. Can I fix this by maybe we'll try a prompt. Yeah, I'm okay with rewriting history. I'm the only one working on this project, so yeah, I have to rebase Oh, I'm not sure if I can be bothered. Then we have lexical scopes. Assignment, there we go. Multiple blocks. That will also need to be changed. Functions, basic closure. Features, while loops. Catch. Prop not found. That's an interesting one. A lot of tests in the features file. And in fact, I should have updated this with most of my commits. Just a moment. So we're back, and I realize I had, as I've often done, I've had the code window covered for a little bit. But this is interesting. This is showing up an issue I wasn't expecting. So this is on line 20. So this is not handling multiple lines correctly. So I think we need to add a fix in the lexer. So the general way we handle the multi-line statements. Oh, I think I know what the issue is. So basically the way we handle semicolon omission is by saying, okay, well, if the line is going to end with a certain token, if it's a pre-approved one, then we just ignore the new line. But if not, then we treat the new line as a line statement terminator. And so this is our list of approved line terminator tokens. Yeah, and so that works as we expected. And since we're doing this, we might as well actually we'll turn this into its own commit. We don't need to bump the version for this because we're not actually changing any code as such. Well, actually, we're changing a tiny bit of code there, so I guess we'll do a patch bump. And yeah, that makes sense. Like, I mean, there are 75 tests running. There are nearly 350 tests there. So, yeah, we were missing a few, to say the least. So, what do we do next? So we want to have some runtime error tests. And we want to say, okay, if you try to do an assignment to an immutable value, what do we get? And that's kind of it, really. Maybe we add some tests to say that you can modify values in an immutable binding. I guess we'll do the same for objects. And now I can resume the stashed changes. And I guess we're going to get a lot of test failures, but hopefully a bunch that will also be fixed now. So lists and runtime errors will have been changed in both. That's kind of neat in its own way, the fact that, yeah, you can like even be very explicit with objects and say, okay, this, even though there are object methods on this object, the object itself is immutable, so any values that are set when it's initialized are final. That's kind of neat, I think. An unexpected line termination. Okay, we'll look at, oh no, I'm looking at the wrong one. So looking at change 4, that's not mutable, so we need to make it mutable. This one I don't think we need it to be mutable. So still looking at change 4. Unexpected statement end on line 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why is that? The dollar bracket should work the same as a regular bracket, I think, but let's just double check the lexer just in case. Oh no, I think we're running into the same issue as what we had just a minute ago. So a bracket open should work, and brace open should work the same as dollar bracket and brace open. And also, do we have some logic for... No, I think that's probably enough. Yeah, and that seems to have fixed a few of those at least. So source change 3, is it just that? Line 5, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so we attempted to change person 1. And probably the same for source 1. In F, this value, or this object is not mutable, that's line 2. I'm actually not sure what's going on here. So we're creating, okay, that's what that was. So let's see, we're going to runtime errors now. And these are our new, are some of our new error tests. So let's see. Yeah, I really should have split this into separate commits, but however. Shorthand. What is happening with, okay, that's a bit too far back. Let's see, parse errors, EOF. We'll try and fix the easier ones first. Maybe that's not easier. Okay, we'll go back and try and knock them out one at a time. Range, immutability, and in fact we will comment these out for the moment. So range, range mutability. And list range, so range start. So the new errors are overriding the pre-existing errors, which I think is what we want. Like if you try to do a range assignment, we're not even going to try to evaluate it because the mutability doesn't allow it in the first place. But it just means we need to change the test to allow it. Let's try that. We're still getting... Oh, we put it in the wrong place. So now we have parse error, expected an identifier. Oh, it's just that we need to add a new item to this. So dollar bracket, dollar brace, operations combinations, here we need to allow that to be modifiable. Oh, that's just at the then I think I was updating the docs. I also need to update the features file with all the new immutability stuff. Even though a bunch of it was kind of applied by default, but I still want to be explicit about it. Maybe I'll do it in the subsequent PR. No, I'll try and do it in this. And that's probably all that needs to be done for documentation, actually. So the ref update is probably just that. But then for the one above it, concat mutability, yeah, I only print out 3 lists. 1, 2, 2, 3. Oh, I do want that's probably it for that file. No, I need to update all of these outputs. Oops. Well, I keep hitting it. But I am really liking the explicitness and the kind of ease of use of the immutability operator. I do like it a lot. That's interesting that it takes an immutable list and adds an immutable list to it and results in an immutable list, but it's actually replacing the original. It's creating a new list, which is why it's not kind of causing an assignment issue there. Oh, I need one there too. I guess it's the same there. Oh, I must have stopped editing in the middle of documenting the mutability stuff. So Whew. That's a lot in it. So features, object, prop, assign. There we go. Change mutability. What's wrong with that? That's the new one. X's is not defined. No, it is not. And finally we have catch shorthand prop not found, and we're complaining because of a lack of mutability on line 9. So if I go down 8, yeah, that should be that. And that's just the formatting of that. Oh, that doesn't have quotation marks. That's a bit funny. Or am I... What's the actual output? Oh. Oh, and I'm also modifying the original. And that's kind of cool too, that you can have an object that's kind of, well, no, I was going to say you can have an object that behind the scenes is mutable, but has a read-only interface. But no, you can't, because this is actually copying the fields. It just so happens that the new copy has all the same fields. So let's see, eval mod. Yeah, a load of files have changed with this. So 832. Oh, yeah. 583, same there. In value, we're going to do an ampersand there. And I guess we do it like that. And then in scope, we want to do what? Oh no, that's in value. Line 115, same. Oh, that's what I was looking at just now. Cool. And that is, yeah, that's a pretty massive change. 400 lines changed. That really should have been 2 commits at least, but it is what it is, and it is a sizable chunk of work done and a really nice feature. I'm really happy with the implementation, how it's been. Oops, there we go. How it's actually been implemented and how it looks and feels. I'm very happy with it. There we go. So with that, I'm actually kind of pumped and would be interested in continuing work on this, but I think it's good to know when to stop, so I will be leaving it there. But there are some nice features to be worked on next, so maybe next I will work on catching errors as errors. There's a good amount to be done with that in terms of decisions. Also imports, a lot of decisions to be made there. Unquoted strings can probably be deferred a little bit. And then the real meat of the language, which really has only 2 features at the moment, but will, I think, grow a lot. So importing will need to be considered very thoroughly, because it requires understanding what is the context that this is going to be used in, trying to predict how it's going to be used, what scenarios, what use cases outside of just the use cases that I have, but at the same time trying to avoid preemptively solving every problem, but just kind of sticking to what are the most likely scenarios and trying to keep things as simple as possible within that. I suppose there is a lot of prior work done in this space. I think Python in particular is a good example of a similar tool or a similar solution for the space that I'm working in, and just trying to learn from the experiences of Python. It's been a while since I've actually looked thoroughly at Python, but I think it over the years has shown just how many tricky parts there are to things, like particularly like when it comes to imports. I'm also thinking standard library and also versioning. So we'll have to be really careful about how we version, how easy is it going to be to just grab a script and drop it on a server? Will it be responsible for making, will it just validate the structure or the imports that are there and all the versions of those? Is each file going to be versioned? How is that going to look? How are dependencies going to be pulled? Things like that. There's so much work done in this space, similar with Go as well. Are you going to take the approach where you, like most other languages, where you have kind of basically a manifest file and then a lock file, or do you go the Go route, which can be good for getting you off the ground quickly, where each file specifies like GitHub repositories and things like that, but you kind of can hit the limits quite relatively quickly when programming in an organization. And so there's a lot to be investigated into there. And then the idea of spawning commands, how those are going to be structured, how subcommands and pipelines are all going to be run, and the data passed between all of those things. There's a lot of interesting stuff coming up, really. All the interesting stuff, like most of the stuff done so far, isn't necessarily novel. I think that, well, I'm very happy with how the features have come along so far. I think they all complement each other nicely and compound very nicely. I think the base for the language is really interesting so far. Even just with the mutability stuff now, it already feels like a language that I'm interested in and excited to try out. So I'm quite pumped now for actually adding more stuff to it. But like I say, it's probably a good time to stop. It's good to know when to stop. So we'll leave it there. And yeah, thanks as always to anyone who's checking out the stream. And yeah, see you next time.